Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Presents Sharing in Session. My name is Sean,
And I'm Missy.
and today we're going to be full spoiler discussing Yellowjackets Season 3, Episode 4, 12 Angry Girls and One Drunk Travis. And I have at least two issues with that title, but I get what they're referencing, even though I
Right.
don't 100% get it. I mean, obviously, 12 Angry Men refers to the trial, even though there's 14 teenagers credited in IMDb for this episode, and Travis does not drink at all that I see. He seems out of it.
Right. I didn't see Travis drink it all either, but he does seem out of it. But yeah, I think it's just 12 angry girls and one drunk Travis because and there's 14 girls referenced, but three of them don't vote because they're involved in the trial. So it's probably 12 girls or the jury.
Oh, maybe. So I believe I counted it with Travis. There's 15 teenagers credited.
Okay.
Teen, if you look at IMDb, it's like teen Travis, teen this, teen that. And actually, also, I'd like to bring up there are two characters still. And I was juxtaposing this with I've mentioned several times like how in season one there's one scene where you see like 19 people or 18 people.
Yeah, when they're walking to the lake, you've mentioned
We're
that a couple times.
we're about there. If you subtract the people that are dead or missing, and you go with who we have left, and they have expanded, like we talked about last week. You shattered there's people talking online like, oh, they inserted these people, and you can go back and, like you said, watch the pilot, and Melissa's there, and Akila's there, and Jen is
And
there.
Jen is there. Crystal is not. I could not find Crystal. I still think Crystal is I still kind of think Crystal might be a figment. Well, and especially Crystal is mentioned today, and nobody says anything in response to it.
Yes, but they've all talked to her or acknowledged her existence, so it's not just Misty. But there are two. So the last two characters there that we see in this episode that they have not really brought out as far as having personalities are Teen Robin and Teen Brittany.
Oh, I don't
Um,
even know who those people are.
so yeah, we'll see. But I have a lot of I don't know a lot of ideas here. What did you think of this episode, Missy?
I thought it was a very strong episode. And we got a lot of character development. We addressed a couple things, and it closes out with a bang.
Oh. So again, folks, full spoiler, and there is a fucking spoiler. So if you've not watched it yet, do not listen any further. We're not going to get there quite yet, but we're going to get there for sure.
I thought it was a strong episode, and although honestly, I think my favorite part is I love Jeff. I love Jeff so much.
Yeah,
And
I love that he found his calling.
right, it's just adorable. Jeff decides that they need to bank some good karma points, so he's gonna find that cat and uh, donate to charity, and then he goes to help at the old folks' home that Misty works at, and becomes the bingo king.
Yeah. I mean, and I loved his like when they're at the mechanics and he's like, and bad karma, what I did to Kevin. And Sean is like, well, you didn't do anything. He's like, but I didn't stop it. And then he's like, and the van didn't stop. Oh my God. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Jeff always has the best lines, but I feel like Jeff, he really got a couple minutes to shine here, especially when he's calling the bingo numbers.
oh God.
Thank
So
God that
good.
biopsy came back B9.
I like after that one right away, like Randy's like going to read the next ball, and the old man's like, let him read it.
Right. And he's making jokes about like Ben Gay and
Oh,
playing to his audience. It
fucking
was
gold.
yeah.
I was a little concerned because when the episode starts and we immediately get the where are you going? We're back. We've got him back here. He tried to kill us, you know. And then Natalie's like, we have to do this the right way. And in my head, I was like, oh God, please don't do the thing with the mock trial. And she's like, we're gonna have a trial. I was like, oh, really? That's a trope I hate.
But how else
Um,
would they like? How else would they do it? Because they're divided, and Nat was probably trying to buy time too to protect him.
the first time I watched it, the second time I watched it just a little while ago, it didn't bother me really at all. I still don't like the trope, but the thing is, the two great aspects of this are Misty, like really young Misty, like really knowing her courtroom shit,
Uh-huh.
you know, like all the terminology and just like withdrawn and just I'm building a narrative and all this like that was
Uh-huh.
really cool. And
Yeah.
then Ben is he's like now I just love him so much and his heartfelt scene
Uh-huh.
was just gangbusters. Like I thought it was so good. My only thing is like, and it didn't feel this way quite so much the second time, but the first time I watched it when they got to Ben, I was like, why wouldn't that have been the first fucking person that spoke? Like the whole time they were doing this, where they have Shauna up there and Mari, I understood, but I was like, let him tell, like literally, like Nat says before they say trial, he deserves a chance to tell his side of things, and
Right.
then they don't hear from him until the end of the trial. I'm like, you know, and the other thing that bothers me is they're all so obsessed with it and it chooses and it does this and that and it doesn't occur to any of them that it might have burned down the cabin. Like I don't see how that's a blind spot for them.
Okay. I mean, as far as the not having Ben testify till later, I mean, I guess that's usually how they do it in court. And the
That's what
at least
Kirsten said too.
at least on especially on court TV, and these are teenagers.
Yeah,
So, I mean, their exposure to courtrooms are probably like episodes of Law and Order.
yeah,
And they they did their trial like an episode of Law and Order. And I mean, honestly, I don't really know anything about courtrooms, and everything I know about courtrooms I learned from Law and Order. So I mean, I feel like that makes sense for teenagers.
I just don't see how somebody didn't say, Ben, did you burn down the cabin?
Oh, they did. There, I mean, Misty asked him, and he said no.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like at the like I just feel like the minute they got him back there before even the idea of a trial, it would have been like, what the fuck? And then he would have been
Hmm.
like, yeah, I didn't do it. And there would have been some form of discourse. And now I guess they kind of position it where like he's very much like, I'm fucked. I'm not even gonna open my
Right.
mouth. Understandably so. But it just I felt a little bit whatever, but it's fine. It ends up, you know, like I said, it ends up really being okay, and it didn't bother me nearly as much. So second time.
Right. And I mean, young Misty was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I actually really liked um that that whole thing where you're the only she doesn't want to do it either initially because she thinks he killed her or he tried to burn the cabin down. And Natalie tells her you're the only chance he's got is at a fair trial.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you care about him, this like maybe you can save his life.
Right.
Like I thought that was really strong. And I mean it was you kind of learn a lot about Thaisa too, because I
Yeah.
mean she's a natural fucking lawyer. You know, all of this she slides into that so easily, and well, I don't. Her character drives me up a goddamn wall. The
Hmm.
actresses are both fantastic.
Yeah,
Thaisa
definitely.
as a person, I don't like. Um, but the actresses I do, especially the young one, Jasmine
Hmm.
Savoy. I think she's outstanding. Um, but I actually really enjoyed the whole courtroom side of it. And again, I don't really feel like there would be a better way for them to do it since some of them
Fair enough.
believe that he did and some of them didn't. Um, the only thing I really had an issue with regarding their trial is at the very end when they vote, and then they keep voting again and again. Like, they're not discussing it or trying to change each other's minds. They're just voting again and again until somebody gives in.
Well, and
And
it's
that
done.
bothered me.
It's visually done weird because there's these like insert shots of them like filling cups with water with a ladle. Like while it's like again, and then there's these like to let you know time is passing. But I was almost like,
Oh, I see. I didn't catch that. I mean,
I'm like, are they like I wasn't entirely sure. I'm like, are they dosing? And so here's the thing. I'm not entirely sure that they weren't being dosed. I don't remember who or if
uh,
you can even see who it is
oh,
that's ladling out the beverage, but we the courtroom, other than the Ben scene just being out like so far the pinnacle for the character.
right.
Um
Yeah.
it has what I think is one of the most important moments going forward for the show. Just a theory, but and that's it comes out of Shauna, right? So where she basically completely cock blocks Nat and says like, you know, she starts arguing again, and Nat's like, you know, the trial's over, and she just shuts her down. She's like, you know, give him a minute, and she keeps saying, and one by one they turn. But here's how they
Mm-hmm.
turn. So Melissa voted with Shauna and Van that he was
Mm-hmm.
guilty. Jen is sitting next to Melissa. She's the first one to turn, and it's like Melissa
Right.
like elbows her,
Uh-huh.
and she, okay. Then we go to Lottie, but they show us Lottie.
And then you get like that crazy aerial.
It's Lottie's perspective, and it's the like acid mushroom trip vision
Uh-huh.
through the treetops, and then she raises her hand, and then after that happens, one by one, everybody raises their hand,
Yeah, then Travis, Aquila.
and so I don't know what that means.
I don't
Also, the
either.
very first thing we see in the episode is a visual shot of the trees. It doesn't have like the trails, like the acid vision, but it goes from
Uh-huh.
trees to different trees. So it almost looks like it starts maybe in the present and goes to the past, or right. I'm not sure. And then
Mm-hmm.
it comes down and shows. Actually, it would start in the present and go to the past because then it comes down and you see them leading Ben. But after that happens, then Melissa goes to Sean and says, "You see that? Do you feel
Mm-hmm.
that? That's power." And then they
Yeah.
clasp hands, and then the camera shows us Lottie looking at them. I think this is extremely important for the current timeline, the
Mm-hmm.
modern day.
And mm-hmm.
I think Melissa is way more important to the overall story we're going to get with this show than we have any idea at this point. I really think she's going to build Shauna up to be something propulsive in the past, and I think that might dovetail with what's going to happen in the future. She thinks that present day Shauna she's this like, you know, raging, not raging, but she's not psychotic, but she's savage, and she's squeezed herself in, this is Kirsten's words, into this domestic role to keep that at bay, and now
Okay.
it's all bubbling up, and I really wonder if this is going to be, we're going to see it happen in the past propelled by Melissa, and we're going to see it happen in the present day propelled by Melissa.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know exactly where it's going, but I don't I don't like Melissa. Like, I just have a feeling that she is bad fucking news, and that
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be one of those people that's going to feed all the bad shit.
I mean, I'm wondering if she's going to be what we originally thought Lottie was at the end of season one, right? The way
Mm,
that they gave you that, like, and who is Lottie? You know, and then they bust in and take Natalie, and you get this impression that like, oh, she's going to be like the big bad, this cult leader, and blah
uh-huh.
blah blah. And then it's like, no, that's not the case at all, right? I don't think that Melissa's going to be a cult leader or whatever, but I'm just curious if she will end up having this kind of, like you said, ominous presence that's going to really be kind of the show's equivalent of like a bad guy. If you can, I don't think we're
Mm-hmm.
going to deal in black and whites at all. That would,
Right.
but she definitely foretells bad things coming, I think, in both
Hmm.
timelines.
I think so too. Um, Now I'm like I think your theory about them being dosed is a good one. I didn't notice the ladle thing, and I took that whole thing with the trees. I mean, you're right, when they were acid tripping, that is the visual they gave us. Um, I took it to be like the presence. If there is a presence, I took it
Hmm.
that way.
I think that's a valid read.
Being dosed never occurred to me, but maybe they did. Maybe they were.
I think it's a
Because
valid
it
read. The only reason I come up with the dose because I took it as a presence the first time too, but then this time I'm watching, I'm like, what's with the fucking weird? Why are they showing us time passing by having them drinking? And then I was like, oh,
Yeah,
wait a
I didn't
minute.
catch that on either watch. I watched it twice too, and I totally didn't catch that ladle thing.
They all act bizarre. Like when they
Uh-huh.
turn,
Yeah,
they don't, they almost look like somebody else is raising a couple of them, like somebody else is
that's
raising their hand
why I took it to be like they were being influenced one by one by this presence.
by the presence.
It if it exists, because again, I mean, we always have to assume that stuff like that is that they are unreliable narrators because
Yes.
when Aquila had that mouse, it was a real mouse until it was dead.
Yeah.
Which is why I still think that Crystal, yes, some of them interacted with her when she was, on screen, but it was still usually from Misty's perspective. So if Misty believed in her, that's what we're going to see.
Yes. And so first of all, the thing with the presence, like really, if they were dosing, if they were dosed, it's the same thing as what you're saying because my interpretation of if they were dosed is that it opened them up to the presence. So either way, I think
Oh, okay.
I do think that this is somehow the presence.
Because why would Crystal be the only one that? Because again, all these other people we thought were inserted initially were not. They're there.
Right.
If you go back and watch the pilot episode, they are on the plane. Some of them don't
Right.
speak, but they're there. Now I don't know about this Robin and Brittany that you were talking about because I did notice in the premiere of season 3 there were like two girls sitting by the fire I didn't recognize, like just regular.
They're pretty present in this episode. I didn't remember them from the first time I watched this episode, but the second time
Mhm.
through, I'm like, oh, they're on screen like all the time. Not all the time, but in the trial thing, you see them quite a bit.
Okay.
Um, but so these kind of hallucinations. So the Akila's mouse, that was her hallucination. Nobody
Hmm.
else saw it alive. If
Right.
Crystal is some kind of apparition or whatever, multiple people saw her. And again, I'm basing that on the fact that like the body disappeared, which a bear could have dragged it off. Or although there were no bears, but I mean, who knows? I'm not saying that proves it. I'm just speculating. But I
Hmm.
thought this episode, I even thought when Sean is in the cooler in the walk-in freezer,
Uh-huh.
another trope I hate, by the way, but they did it. It was fine. Like I thought she was going to be in there for the rest of the episode. I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. Um, when Jackie showed up, I thought, what if this is like not in her head? Like, I mean, they cut away and you see that she's not really there at one point when she's by the door talking to her. But I mean,
Uh-huh.
what if this isn't just like Shauna's psyche? What if this is like the presence? So, what if this is legitimately something external
Oh.
that's affecting her? Because it had that feel to me this time. I don't, maybe not. I mean, the last time she was in an ice box was with dead Jackie in the old
Hmm.
timeline at the beginning of season 2.
Right.
So, I mean, it could have triggered it, absolutely. But I think there's more going on.
Well, and now this is who's trying to kill Shauna?
And
because
so, and then, right, so something has a beef with her because the breaks, which we've now established were not Misty, and the
and we're
walk-in.
not cut. Like the mechanic said, it was
Yeah,
just something that worked. It They were not cut. They were not nothing. He didn't see anything bizarre.
yeah. And then the walk-in,
Right. And then she gets locked in
which
the freezer.
also those walk-ins, they don't they you can't get locked in them. Like they did that in The Bear in the second season, and it was they established episodes before it happens to somebody. This is broke, fix it. And the person that puts off fixing it is the one that gets caught. So it's like, okay, but you don't like walking. Obviously, it would be dangerous if the door just shut and you get stuck, right? So it
Hmm.
implies the fact that she gets stuck in there this episode implies something extra normal is going on because she can't get out.
Hmm.
So something has a beef with her. I mean, we're definitely seeing some kind of forces, it appears, manifesting slowly but surely.
Oh, and something that stuck out to me as a very important moment in the episode, and it can be interpreted like two different ways, is Lottie in the mirror. We don't see
Yes.
much Lottie in this episode. And on my first watch, it didn't stick with me. I didn't catch it, but the second time around, Lottie, it's a rather quick scene of Lottie in a mirror talking to herself, saying,
She's
I
practicing an
have a lot to
apology.
right. I have a lot to apologize for. I know I hurt you. I understand. I understand that I hurt you. Well, I mean, is she talking to herself? Is she practicing an apology? Is she talking to it?
That's interesting.
Because, like you said, she's practicing an apology. I didn't like that's a third way it can be taken. I didn't take it that way. But I wasn't sure if she was apologizing to herself or if she was talking to it, which is I lean toward it, but
The reason I interpret it, I still lean. I hadn't thought of those. They're valid, definitely valid. I had not thought of those at all. I love that. But the reason I still lean towards the interpretation of it being a practiced apology is because she tries it over and over again in different ways.
mm.
Like she's trying to, and
See, I thought that was just like her being kind of unraveling,
maybe, yeah, that could very well be.
like
I mean,
borderline manic.
if it's a practice, so the knee jerk reaction is like, oh, she's practicing to apologize to Shauna. Not necessarily. And I'm wondering, so this is the beauty of this episode. So let's just go there right now. The end of this episode, Lottie's dead. Didn't see that coming. I think that's fucking, oh my God. Like
I
I
agree.
loved it. I loved it. And they needed to do it.
Did not see it coming at all. Um, and again, that leads to, I mean, did it take her? Did because when we see the camera pan down and they're doing, and you see that it's a crime scene, like we go down into like a basement and there's all these candles and shit, like it was set up for a ritual or something.
It looks like Ty's altar, right, in the house, in the weird area in her house. But it also
Oh.
it does, and it also kind of looks like what was under Travis, adult Travis, when he was found dead, or what was
Mm-hmm.
swept up, what was cleaned up. But
Right.
okay, here's the beauty of this. Oh my God, this is so well done. So I'm going to go back and come back because it's going to dovetail. But
Okay.
I said last week, like, oh shit, are like Ty and Van going to like go on a fucking killing
Oh
spree? And
shit,
they
yeah.
almost fucking do, right? I was like, holy
Right.
shit.
Ty was gonna
But
kill that guy.
oh, 100%, 100. Like there were, and I was actually surprised that Van. I don't know. I still think Van is a dark. Well, but here's the thing. Okay, so they don't. And then Ty says, "Meet me in 1 hour in Central Park or whatever."
Right.
So now we have Lottie's in New York and she ends up dead. Ty is in New York by herself Van is in New York. And also, Lottie did not need to stay with Shauna, by the way. Clearly, she's walking out of a bank. They're offering to call her a car, and she's wearing a fucking fur. She went
Mm-hmm.
there specifically to talk to Callie
Yep.
and play the I'm down on my luck shit, but she's obviously loaded. Um, but so she dies in New York. Van, well, Ty leaves Van in New York. So they're both in New York, separated from each other. So they're both fucking suspects. And you would think, well, Ty is a suspect, but also Ty leaves Van at that apartment. And then when Van buys the pretzels, her hands are shaking. Now, are her hands shaking because of what she did? Because the first thing I said is, like, I said to Kirsten, I'm like, holy shit, do you think she stayed behind and killed that guy? And she's like, well, I took it as maybe her cancer was coming back.
That's what I took it as.
She's going to regret not doing it, right? But then also, when I missed the first time, Shauna tells Jeff I drove to New York and got this
I
cat.
drove to
So
Manhattan and got this cat.
all fucking, oh, they're all there. And we don't know where Misty went when she left, right? And Walter texts, I just heard about Lottie. So they're all fucking suspects. I mean, Shauna, Van, and Ty are especially suspects. But I mean, holy shit, like that was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. I was like,
That's
wow.
awesome. I didn't catch it. I didn't realize they were all in New York.
Yeah, they're all in Manhattan, I think.
Okay.
So that's just
Okay.
wow.
Good call.
Wow.
Good catch.
Um, but then I even think that it makes sense that maybe they're all red herrings because maybe Lottie was practicing apologizing to Melissa because we don't know if they have a relationship.
Well, they were all stranded out there together for a year and a half, so they all have some kind of relationship with each other.
Oh, of course. And so Simone Kessel, who plays adult Lottie,
Right.
she's not necessarily out of the show because they can do stuff that shows us what she was doing in, running up to where we are. So in other words, I'm curious. I think she may have been practicing to go apologize to Melissa, and that we'll get something about their relationship that none of the rest of them know about. And I think maybe Melissa killed her.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's that really that whole thing to me was like just a great element to the episode.
I see. I thought this goes back in line with the it, but so Van and Ty get together and they try to see if it is gonna choose someone. So they're sitting outside at this like outdoor restaurant and they've got this queen of hearts that they put on the ground and people keep picking it up and interacting with it and looking at it and keep putting it down, which I thought was a nice touch. And then eventually the guy gets it and puts it in his
Yeah.
pocket and they follow him. And so if it chose and they were supposed to kill this guy and then they didn't, they decided to go on a date in Central Park. There's a point in season 2 where Lottie is talking about it and she says it took what it always wanted. It took one of us when Natalie
Mm-hmm.
dies.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't get what it wanted. So maybe it took her,
Yeah.
Lottie,
Yeah.
especially if what she was talking to in the mirror was actually her talking with it, which
Yeah. Yeah. And then the question is, how much agency does it have? Like, it typically carries out through them, through their actions,
right.
hence the hunts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if Ty and Van are correct and the heart attack was it, which I don't think that's the case. I think that's they're like starting to see it everywhere when I think that guy just had a heart attack. I don't necessarily know that I think like it could push Lottie down the stairs and her neck breaks or something, right? I think it has to be carried out through somebody else. And so, man, I don't know. I'm just getting this sense that like Melissa in the past maybe
Oh, she's bad fucking news. I just,
but I think she's going to be big. I think she's really going to propel up plot lines and character stuff that we don't know is coming.
hmm
So I'm just so and that's kind of bared out by the fact that like we're now 4 episodes in and we still haven't seen Hilary Swank, who I'm pretty like we've talked about before. We could be
right.
wrong,
We
but I'm
think it's going
pretty
to be
sure.
her.
I'm
hmm
specifically not like every week when the new episode drops, the next week's episode gets a name on IMDb. I don't look at them, so I don't know if the
Oh, I
cast
didn't
is
even know that was a
updated.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, so I noticed last week 12 Angry Girls and One Drunk Travis, and I was like, oh, but I won't click on them because I don't want any spoilers. So I don't know. For
Uh-huh.
all I know, like you could click on that and see Hillary Swank. I don't think they would do that because it's like, why keep it a secret and reveal it a week before?
Uh-huh.
But it is
Yeah,
weird
that
that
doesn't
they're
make sense, but
playing her that close to the chest. That makes me really wonder how important. Like, I think she might be very important to the overall
very
story of the
important.
show, which is super cool because she was somebody that like nobody, she was nobody.
Right. For the first two seasons, she was Hat Girl.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, Hat Girl. That's
Like
what
we
we always
both
called
did
her.
it. We called her Hat Girl because we didn't she didn't stand out enough to even remember her name. I
Yeah,
called her Girl and we share the same goddamn name.
yeah, yeah. And
So
and and they acknowledged that in that episode where in the first episode where Sean was like, "Oh, you have a personality." Like they were
right.
totally talking. They
Oh,
were voicing our opinion through Shauna, right?
and foreshadowing, you're not gonna turn out to be fucking boring, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, that's even. Oh man, dude. I mean, this makes me super excited. Um, I think we're at the point where we need something really explosive next week. And I'm not talking about like the death was great, but
Yeah.
we need something. Oh, and also I want to point out we missed this last week. We didn't mention it. Um, I did go back and watch it again, and I sat. So the second time I watched last week's episode before we recorded, I basically just fucking trailed off during the fucking dream sequence, right?
hmm
I did watch the episode again and I paid attention. The dream sequence is actually, I think, going to end up being it's interesting, but I
Important.
think it's going to end up being somewhat important because
Okay.
it marks the first time every three other people now see the eyeless man because he fucking in that scene where they're in a classroom and it's Van Aquila and was it Nat? No,
Shauna.
Shauna. Sorry, when they first like wake up there and Aquila says like, "Am I in your dream or are you in mine?" Then they cut to a Jacob's Ladder shot of like a squeaky wheel on something
Uh-huh.
with a bad bearing, and they cut up, and they all three look out the classroom door, and in the hallway is the fucking eyeless man pushing a cart of ice cream, or pushing a cart of something.
Oh shit.
So
Okay.
that's the first time the eyeless man is seen by anybody other than
Other than
Ty.
Ty.
So that means, and that feeds into this shared hallucination thing. Like I think something like that. I think it's very possible that like maybe Crystal is not real.
Right. That's well, and even it's in season two, there throughout all of season like several episodes of season two, Mari keeps complaining about hearing dripping and always wanting
Yeah.
people to, to help her find the drip, help her find the drip. And nobody ever hears it until like the end of season two. I forget what the catalyst is, but Thaisa and one or two other people hear it too.
Interesting.
This may I'm not positive because I just thought of this now. Um, it may it may be in the like either the finale episode or the episode just before,
Yeah, it's near the
just
end.
before the hunt of Natalie. But it's right around there that Ty and a couple other people hear it too. Like they are all feeding into it, and
There's a shared thing that's
mhm.
extrasensory for sure.
Well, and I mean we know that I mean that happens with people when they're together a lot. Well, certain people when they're together
Yeah.
a lot, where you can have those kind of shared things. But they're also, it's a shared traumatic experience. So everything's heightened.
To see the specifics of the Ozzy's ice cream. Now, granted, maybe they all know what Ozzy's is, but it's Ty's
Right.
specter, so to speak. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So, or her manifestation. So the fact that they all fucking see that, that's
Right.
just crazy. That cave's going to be important too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about the cave really until you just said that. I mean, but we know that Javi was hiding in a place like that. So,
And he was talking to somebody, and Coach was talking to somebody in there.
but I mean, I thought Coach was just talking to his boyfriend who's not there. But his scene was really fantastic. Like his
It
heartfelt,
was.
it was very, it felt very genuine and real, and I liked it a lot. I love his character, and I really hope he doesn't, you know, get eaten.
Yeah, I would like nothing more than to find out he's still alive in the present day. I'm really pulling for him as an underdog. I loved that fucking speech. I loved it so
Yeah,
much.
me too.
I thought he just really fucking knocked it out of the park. Steven Kruger, who plays him, yeah, just
Okay.
fuck, man, so good.
He is the underdog, so I hope something intervenes and he does not get, you know, eaten. Eaten for justice.
Eaten for justice. That's great.
We ended on a major cliffhanger, so I'm really hoping that next episode is another banger.
Yeah, I hope Misty puts Svetlana's 4 remaining puzzle pieces back too, because what a fucking bitch! Like that just fucking pissed me off. Like really?
Really?
Oh, man.
Poor old lady been working on that puzzle for 4 weeks.
Yeah, how about it? Time well spent. Oh, okay. Well, that's sharing in session, and it's another episode of Yellow Jackets. Join us next week when we talk about the next one, which incidentally is titled "Did Ty Do That?" Oh, actually,
Okay.
there's titles for quite a few. So, okay, not looking any further ahead. But I'm Sean.
And I'm Missy.
We'll see you next week.
Hapless teenagers beset by demons in the woods. A strange new drug that turns art into murder. A can't beat a deal on a new house with a horrifying past. A video game that might usher in the apocalypse. From the demented mind of Sean C. Baker, author of a collection of desires, Shadow Play, and Murder Virus, comes Volume 4, collecting Baker's no sleep work along with several never-before-published short stories. This 99-cent volume also includes the opening chapter of the author's forthcoming teenage giallo novel, Black Gloves and Broken Hearts, due out later this year.